Hello again. In Dwight Wilson, Armageddon Now, page 56, he's been dealing with the resistance among traditional churchmen, theologians, to this, what they consider to be new teaching of dispensational premillennialism. Much of it was new, but the core of it was not. It goes right back to the original, the first period of the church, that is pre-Nicaea. The church fathers were consistently premillennial. So his analysis of the resistance goes on here for the rest of this chapter. In the immediate post-war period, that's post-World War I, premillennialism came under concerted attack, particularly in a series of articles in the Biblical World. This bombardment gave some general indication of the extent of the premillenarian advance. During the war, Shirley Jackson Case, we've talked about him in the last video, had observed that the danger is not restricted to a single locality. It has become nationwide. In 1919, Dr. T. Valentine Parker of the First Baptist Church, Binghamton, New York, said, "Their influence is permeating our churches." Various comments were made in the Biblical World. Quote, "The Protestant churches of the United States are facing a crisis in religion. Its injurious effect can already be seen in hundreds of churches throughout the United States." But the premillenarians gleefully quoted their critics. Our Hope, for instance, Our Hope magazine cited the lament of the president of Auburn Theological Seminary, who said, "The spirit of premillennialism is dividing the whole Protestant Church of America. Dr. Chapman and Billy Sunday and nearly all the evangelists hold this doctrine. Here is a school of thought that is captivating the church of today." Unquote. The focus of all this criticism was the failure of the premillenarians to join the great cause of the social gospel and to help usher in the great age of the kingdom of God on earth. The social gospel was, and has continued to be, rejected by premillenarians on a theological basis. Now, what they're alluding to here is the social gospel kind of wrapped up with the person of Walter Rauschenbusch in America. We've made a whole playlist of Rauschenbusch's points of view. They're not entirely to be rejected, that's for sure. So there was a war going on, as has already been pointed out by the opposition here, in theology. It was, is the kingdom now? Is it to be inaugurated by Christians, or is it coming violently, intruding, as it were, into the affairs of men in the near future, as the dispensational camp anyway assumed. It goes on, Wilson goes on rather. Another point of criticism was much more telling, however, and has seemingly grown more goading through the years. This was the censure of the generally non-political bent of the premillenarian and his attitude toward the state and toward social improvement. This prevailing attitude of the premillenarian had been expressed in Nathaniel West's 1889 book, The 1,000 Years. West had said, "What we are pleased to call the Christian state is simply the Christian beast, either the horns of the beast or the toes of the colossus, a beast whose power is in check for the present, but soon to be unchecked and drive Christianity back to the wall." End of the quote by West. The charge against such a predisposition was irresponsibility. So one critic of this point of view, H.F. Rawle, said this, quote, 19 centuries have passed by during which, according to Adventism, this new age has been imminent. There is nothing in premillennial teaching to compel us to believe that the world may not need to wait 19 or twice 19 centuries more, since, according to men like Dr. Scofield, the Scofield Reference Bible had just come out, by the way, and Dr. Pierson, imminent with premillennialists means simply next on the docket, whether near or remote. For an indefinite period, then, Adventism has nothing to suggest to us but a passive pessimism over against a pagan and hopelessly evil social order. End of quote. Premillenarians may have been irked by the criticism, but they were not chagrined, not at the time anyway. They went merrily on their doomsaying way, interpreting not every falling leaf as medievalists, but nearly every international event as God-ordained and prophetically significant. Although World War I had not produced the expected Armageddon, not yet anyway, premillenarians were not disappointed. The Balfour Declaration made the Jewish restoration seem imminent. Allenby's victory at Jerusalem augured the end of the times of the Gentiles, and the Soviet giant seemed a foreboding threat. The stage was set once again for the dramatic end. That's the end of chapter 3. Now, chapter 4 is entitled The 20s Roar Faintly, Bear, Beast, and Young Lions. I'll put in a link to a basic library for all Christians, as far as I'm concerned. Nathaniel West, who is quoted by Rawl here negatively, and by Wilson with concern, that yes, the dispensational variety of premillennialism was something new, but Nathaniel West was not that. Nathaniel West is historic premillennialism, going back to the teaching of the fathers. So I'll put in a link to that basic library item in our little summary of it. 1,000 years in both testaments, it was originally called, and it is, I think, the best short book, and by that I mean 500 pages. The best short book, but short meaning comprehensive, but fairly easy to access for most of us who are curious. It's dense, but it is concise, compared, let's say, to George Peters, who we've also talked about elsewhere, 3,000 pages, and more like 4,000 because it's in small print. 4,000 pages, 3 volumes, comprehensive, but West is much more terse and brief. So that's a basic library item I think all Christians should read. And I'll also put on your screen the basic library playlist. See you soon.